All right, my friends, we have a video we're going to look at today. This is from Clayton Kershaw. I'll put the individual's Twitter account I saw this from. So, if you're an athlete and you're injured, or you have some sort of limitation, it is wildly important to do what I'm about to talk about here, simply because it reduces the likelihood of other injuries. So, Clayton Kershaw is dealing with, I believe, bone spurs in that back foot. And so what he's doing here is he's throwing like he would in a pitching situation, even though he's not striding with that back foot elevated. And why is this so critical? Well, it provides specific stimulus to the elbow, shoulder, common areas of injury, so he doesn't de-adapt. Right? You spent all this time training, and you spent all this time pitching and building up the capacity of your elbow flexors, extensors, your UCL, your shoulder girdle, to handle the specific demands of an arm velocity at a high speed. Well, if I can't do that arm velocity because I have limitations in my foot, but I don't have limitations in my arm, what's the next best option? It's some form of throwing that doesn't evoke pain in the area of injury, but allows me to keep my shoulder girdle, my arm, and everything else operating. Now, this is like the purest form of work capacity maintenance. Work capacity means how much work can my tissues, can my muscles do before they get some sort of inflammation issue, maybe acute trauma that might cause a problem. And if we can find ways as athletes to maintain that capacity without aggravating the injury, it is the best option we have. And so when we think about rehab and we think about recovery and we think about training, they don't really operate on universal wholes. Like, it's not like your entire body is in rehab, your entire body is in prehab, your entire body is in training. There are areas that might need rehab. There are areas that you can still train. My knee right now really hurts, my right knee. I can train my left leg. I can train my upper body. I can do certain things that will, at least at a minimum, help improve my fit, well, maintain or even reduce the speed at which I lose my capacity. Right? It's not always about, can I maintain something or can I build something? If I stop doing something, I lose my capacity to do something. Okay, knowing that, I can train maybe my one leg versus the other so I don't lose my capacity to perform at the same rate I would if I wasn't doing it. If I was Clayton Kershaw and I just took my time off and didn't throw, I would lose my capacity to perform very fast. If I can throw at 80%, I might not improve my capacity, but I might slow down the rate at which I lose it. And there are other areas he could possibly train, like his, let's say he did have an arm issue, let's say. Okay, I can train my lower body. My lower body is still in a training phase. My upper body is in a rehab phase. So we cannot simply address the body as a single unit in terms of its label of function. It is prehab, it is rehab, it is something else. We have to address the body and what it's trying to perform. It's trying to throw baseballs in this case. What are the areas that are under load when throwing baseballs? What are some critical areas that need to have certain types of loading, like just bench pressing is not enough for him. He needs to have that high velocity loading on his elbow and shoulder. Cool. We can mimic certain aspects of that loading. It's not going to make him a better pitcher per se. He's not trying to become a better pitcher with this drill. He's trying to make sure he's able to pitch when the time is called upon for him to pitch. So, I think being able to break down the purpose of something and understand the why, understand the general concern. So if I have an injury, what are the other concerns surrounding that injury beyond that injury? So people say, oh, I got hurt, I hurt my knee. Okay, well, let's just get your knee healthy. Well, if I just take 3 weeks off, will it feel better? Maybe, yeah. But during that time period, if I took everything else off, how would my jump shot feel? How would my left leg feel? How would my muscle mass be? If I know these things are possible collateral damage with an injury, I can make sure my protein intake is adequate to maintain muscle mass to an extent or reduce the loss of it. I can train the opposite leg to have a cross extensor effect. I can train the opposite leg for a hormonal response. My body is still training, it's still having that repetition of training, but I'm not having the issue of loading on that knee. So like I have the hormonal training, I have the evoked response of training, but I don't have the, irritation is the word I'm looking for, or I'm not aggravating the existing injury. So all these things are stuff you need to consider as an athlete. It's so much more than just should I lift, should I not lift? What type of lifting, what type of loading, what are some things you can work around, what management processes can you do? And just watching Clayton Kershaw do that, one single bullpen pitching ordeal, you can take away so much as an athlete. So much. And there's so much detail that goes into it and why that is such a smart move. On top of that, by the way, because maybe he's never thrown like that before, you still have to load yourself into it. And what I mean by that, my only concern would be if he does that, and maybe it places a little more strain on his obliques to stabilize because there is no back foot, or more strain on the front leg. You just don't want to overdo it. So maybe you can find different ways to replicate the same exercise. If you want to throw 80 total pitches or 50 total pitches, do 30 like this, maybe 30 on your knees, maybe 30 in a certain other variation of where the loading is distributed differently versus all 60 or all 80 in a certain position because those tissues haven't been loaded uniquely in that way. And then you could have overuse issues elsewhere. So that's the other issue, is like you start to compensate and do things that are damaging inadvertently in a means to try to make sure you don't damage yourself. So you want to keep the tissues ready that are important. Keeping them ready will actually mitigate the likelihood of injury when you get back. Basically, you fix the one tire on the car without running out of air in the other tires. You keep the tires pumped up, so when you put the new tire back on, everyone's ready to roll together. You can train the right tissues under the right loading, speed, velocity, impact, and so on. And you do it in a way that's not going to be irritating that existing injury already. I'll leave it there for now. Super cool video, and I hope you guys enjoy that. Appreciate y'all. As always, take care.